Now, what do you see out that foggy windshield?
Well,
As if I didn't know.
Somebody's going to be holding the bag. That's what we're talking about here. So what I think is even more important news than the downgrades of all those countries, and France, etc., and Portugal turning into junk, is that Greece has hit a snag in their discussions. Now, we haven't talked about Greece for a while because they had all this plan going on.
Greece is the word.
Greece is the word, but what I think is the snag is significant. It's not just a negotiation play. I think this is a problem, and I think it's going to turn into a really big problem.
They were supposed to have a deal this week, but here's the snag. Talks over Greece's debt restructuring broke down on Friday, an unexpected blow that makes it increasingly likely that Athens will become the first government of the developed country in more than 60 years to suffer a full-scale default on its debt.
So this is a big deal because if Greece defaults on its debt, there is a situation where we don't know exactly what will happen. I mean, there's no precedent for this. I mean, 60 years ago, somebody may have suffered a problem, but that was well before the markets.
We weren't all entangled with the rest of the world.
That's right. That's when everybody was kind of in their own country. We're not in our own countries anymore. We're one big global financial market. So Greece owes $14 billion that they have to pay by 14 billion euros, excuse me,
yes,
by March 20th. What they want to do is restructure the debt right now so they take a 50% haircut on that, so they only owe $7 billion. Then they need to go to the ECB, or not the ECB, but the European Union, Eurozone Troika, and borrow that money so they can pay their bills, because they don't have the $7 billion to pay the bills.
Right.
So they want to cut it in half. That's one step, and then they would need to borrow it. That's step two. Well, the problem with cutting it in half is they don't agree on
who's going to take the
cut? On the 50%, or if everyone's going to agree to that. So the IMF got involved.
Yep, so the International Monetary Fund in particular has concluded that bondholder losses must be increased significantly, or a second Greek bailout would have to be bigger than the 130 billion euros agreed in October.
So the IMF is saying that the people that hold bonds need to take bigger losses than they're willing to take at 50%. And the reason for that is because that still doesn't bring down the Greek debt to any reasonable level that's sustainable. So even if they took a 50% haircut, they still can't make the interest payments. So that's a problem. So remember what happened here, right? In the middle of the night, about 2 months ago, there was a headlock with Angela Merkel holding down this Charles Delara guy, who was the IIF, the finance guy who was negotiating, and she was giving him some noogies, and she was holding him down and saying, take this deal, it's 50%, take this deal. And so they're faced with the president of France and the chancellor of Germany and this one guy who's representing the banks at 4 o'clock in the morning going, take the 50%. And he goes, okay, I'll take the 50%.
I'll do it.
But they had no details. There's no details at all. There was no interest rate, there was no terms, there's no nothing. Just take a 50% haircut, they can announce it, they can keep going. Now they've got to come up with the terms. And now they don't want to. So what'd they say?
It says, under the circumstances, discussions with Greece and the official sector are paused for reflection on the benefits of a voluntary approach, said the statement put out by Charles Delara, Managing Director of the International Institute for Finance, and Jean Lemire of BNP Paribas, who have been negotiating on behalf of the banks and other financial institutions.
So it's no longer 4 o'clock in the morning, and she no longer has a headlock on him, and he's saying, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
I was a little tired, didn't know what I was doing.
I just wanted to kick the can down the road for a few months. Now we're not so willing to say voluntarily. If you were going to lose half your money and you had insurance, would you voluntarily not collect on the insurance?
That's what I have insurance for.
That's what most people think. But they're saying, oh no, if you collect on the insurance, we don't know what will happen, so please don't. Well, I don't know about the please don't thing.
Then why'd I take out the insurance in the first place?
Exactly. So now they're having this problem of some people, especially hedge funds that have bought into this, have said, I want the insurance. I bought insurance for a reason. We're going to trigger the CDSs, which is an involuntary trigger, and then no one knows what happens. because we don't know anything about the CDS market out there, the insurance market out there, because it's not public. We don't know how many contracts are out there. We don't know who owns them. We don't know how many people are going to take losses. We have no idea.
And at the very end, it says Jacob Funk Kierkegaard at the Patterson Institute of International Economics in Washington said, the IMF has said that either Greece needs 100% participation from bondholders or the Euro area authorities have to make up the shortfall. The Euro area now has to decide whether they want to pony up another 30 billion or so or force a coercive restructuring.
That's right. So pay me, or we're going to trigger the insurance. Now, realize that since this started over the last couple of years, 1/3 of the deposits in Greek banks are gone. They've taken their money out of Greek banks. So it's about 65 billion.
I think I would have been one of them. If I had my money in Greece, I would have said, no.
Okay, so hearing this, what do you think? In short order, it'll be 2/3.
Oh yeah, anyone that
still
has money in Greece.
If you still had your money in the Greek bank, would you leave it in there given this? I can't believe they would. And of course, if they do that, the banks are even in worse shape. So it's a big problem. This is coming to a head very quickly. There's a meeting next week. I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later because they have this March deadline. They got to make up their mind. What are you going to do? And if the banks and the rest of the bondholders are saying, I'm not taking another haircut, 50% was too much to begin with, I'm certainly not going to 70 or 80%, and Greece is saying, if you don't go to 70 or 80%, we can't
pay our bills.
We can't pay our bills anyway. So you might as well, hit the eject button and get us a whole new restart. And I think they're headed towards a whole new restart. And a whole new restart is a whole new world because nobody's done it before. So hold on to your hats and we'll see what's going on. It's a lot of big news in that foggy windshield, and I'm very concerned that something bad will happen.
And
what
do you have for
what's our takeaway?
What's the takeaway?
So the takeaway is they agreed in principle, but with no price on the table. Agreeing to something without a price is no agreement at all. The devil's in the details, and the price is a pretty big detail to leave out. Until the details are worked out, agreements aren't worth anything.